It's official. The Republican Party is eating itself alive. The map war has begun. And for the first time in years, the rebellion isn't coming from Democrats, it's coming from inside Trump's own house. Yeah, you heard that right. In red states like Indiana and Kansas, Republican lawmakers are turning on Trump-aligned strategists, flat out rejecting the national redistricting plan he's been pushing for months. Here's the kicker. This was supposed to be Trump's big victory lap, his master plan to lock down congressional seats for a generation. Instead, it's unraveling in public, one legislature at a time. The fight isn't just about lines on a map. It's about power. Who controls it, who keeps it, and who dares to say no to the man who built the modern GOP. And right now, that defiance is spreading faster than anyone expected. To understand this revolt, you have to rewind to the end of summer. Trump's inner circle had been quietly building what they called the Red Map Project 2.0, a national effort to redraw congressional districts in Republican states before the 2026 midterms. The goal? Eliminate swing seats, squeeze Democrats out of competitiveness, and guarantee Trump-loyal majorities from Capitol Hill down to county lines. It was bold. It was ruthless, and it was working, until the locals stepped in. In Indiana, party leaders met behind closed doors and said no. In Kansas, a group of longtime Republican lawmakers refused to push the national map template through their committees. Their reason? They didn't want Washington, not even Trump's Washington, telling them how to carve up their own voters. That single decision detonated across conservative media. Trump-aligned commentators accused state leaders of betrayal. State legislators fired back, saying they were tired of being bullied by a national party that no longer listens to its base. One insider called it the first real crack in the Trump machine. By week's end, the story had exploded. Headlines screamed, "GOP rebellion brews in the heartland." Cable news ran clips of furious state lawmakers arguing with Trump PAC operatives in hotel lobbies. And the former president, he did what he always does, posted on social media. All Republicans should support fair maps, not weak ones that help the left win. Fair maps. Translation, maps that favor him. Behind the scenes, the tone was darker. Sources close to the campaign say Trump was furious, calling rebel lawmakers traitors in redcoats. He wanted loyalty, not negotiation. But here's the problem. You can demand loyalty from voters, donors, even members of Congress. You can't order a state legislature to obey you, especially when their own seats are on the line. And that's the heart of this story. Trump's national map push isn't just about strategy. It's about ownership. He's testing whether the Republican Party still belongs to the states or to him. And the early answer? The states are pushing back. The fallout was immediate. Indiana's Republican governor released a carefully worded statement about preserving state integrity in redistricting. Translation, we're not taking orders from Mar-a-Lago. Kansas Republicans held a late-night vote to shelve the national proposal indefinitely. Even in Texas, whispers started spreading that the legislature would slow down any federal coordination. Trump's allies were blindsided. For months, they'd bragged about uniting the GOP under one redistricting strategy. Same data, same consultants, same results. Now that unity is cracking like glass. Conservative donors are quietly picking sides. Some back Trump's national effort, others, mostly state-level business groups, want to keep control local. It's the first serious turf war inside the Republican Party since the Tea Party revolt a decade ago. But this time, it's not Washington versus the grassroots. It's Washington versus its own governors. Inside the RNC, panic meetings are happening daily. Staffers describe shouting matches over funding priorities. One strategist reportedly warned, if we lose control of redistricting, we lose the House.
But here's the twist. Some Republicans say the revolt might save them because Trump's map push, critics argue, goes too far. It concentrates districts so heavily that moderate suburban voters, the ones Republicans need to win statewide, get pushed out. One GOP pollster said, "We're carving ourselves into corners. If we keep this up, we'll win the maps and lose the country." That single line captured the moment. The party that built its identity on discipline is fracturing over math. And yet Trump keeps doubling down. His aides tell reporters states rejecting his plan are helping Democrats. He scheduled rallies in Indiana and Kansas to remind voters who's fighting for them. Translation, to punish the rebels in public. Here's where it gets dangerous. The more he pressures state Republicans, the more they dig in. The more they resist, the more his base accuses them of betrayal. It's a feedback loop, a slow-motion implosion.
And that brings us to the moment we're in right now, a Republican Party at war with itself. Trump versus the legislatures, national power versus state autonomy, loyalty versus survival. Political analysts are calling it the most serious intra-party conflict since the Reagan era. Because if Trump can't control redistricting, the literal drawing of power lines, then maybe he can't control the party at all. And here's the part nobody's talking about. What happens if this rebellion spreads? Now, we will dive into the fallout, how this fracture could reshape 2026 and 2028, and why Trump's grip on the GOP might be breaking faster than anyone believed. The question everyone's whispering now is simple. What if this isn't an exception? What if the rebellion in Indiana and Kansas isn't the end, but the beginning? Because if one red state says no, another will follow. And once that happens, the Trump machine, the network that's dictated Republican strategy for nearly a decade, could start breaking down in real time. Yeah, you heard that right. The empire that built itself on loyalty is now cracking under its own weight. Behind closed doors, Republican strategists are panicking. One senior aide told reporters it's chaos, the states are off script, and the donors are confused. In plain English, nobody knows who's in charge anymore. In Washington, the RNC is scrambling to keep everyone in line. They've sent envoys to state capitals trying to clarify that the national map plan isn't mandatory, just guidance. But the damage is already done. Lawmakers smell weakness, and when politicians smell weakness, they don't wait, they act. By midweek, Georgia and North Carolina quietly paused their own redistricting reviews. Local committees want to reassess fairness metrics. Translation, they're distancing themselves from Trump's fingerprints. Meanwhile, a group of moderate GOP governors is forming what insiders are calling the Federalism Coalition, a polite name for "we're done being bullied." Think about that. Republican governors forming a bloc to defend their states against a Republican president's map agenda. That's not just resistance, it's defiance. And it's exactly the scenario Trump feared most, losing control not to Democrats, but to his own party. The fallout is already visible. Pro-Trump PACs are pulling funding from several state campaigns that refuse to cooperate. In response, those same states are courting independent donors and local business alliances. The Republican money pipeline, once perfectly centralized, is splintering. One strategist put it bluntly, Trump built a brand, not a party, and brands can collapse overnight. You can feel the shift. Rallies are still loud, the base is still loyal, but the people inside the machine, the ones who actually draw maps, write laws, and count votes, they're starting to hedge their bets. They've seen this movie before. When loyalty becomes mandatory, control always backfires. The media is having a field day. Headlines like GOP civil war explodes and Trump loses his grip on red states dominate the feeds. Cable networks air split screens, Trump at a rally demanding unity, and state lawmakers back home laughing it off. And here's the real twist. Democrats didn't even have to lift a finger. They're watching from the sidelines, popcorn in hand, while Republicans fight Republicans. One Democratic strategist joked on air, "We couldn't have scripted this better if we tried." But the joke has teeth, because the longer this internal feud drags on, the less time the GOP has to actually campaign. Every delay in redistricting means one thing: uncertainty. And uncertainty kills momentum. That's why election analysts are quietly updating their 2026 forecasts. A few swing districts that were supposed to lean Republican are now back in play. Even a small shift, 2, maybe 3 seats, could tip the House. Trump knows it, and he's furious. This week, his team released a fiery statement calling state rebels weak Republicans and warning of severe consequences. But that phrase, severe consequences, didn't land the way he hoped. It reminded people why this revolt started in the first place. Because for years, the Trump wing of the party has ruled through fear. Loyalty wasn't earned, it was demanded. And now that fear is losing its bite. Even diehard conservatives are starting to whisper about post-Trump politics. Not anti-Trump, just after Trump. That's how every power era ends. Not with rebellion, but with exhaustion. Here's where it gets even more ironic. The redistricting plan was supposed to cement Trump's control, to make sure his people were in office for years to come. Instead, it's exposing how fragile his influence really is. Because when you can't control the maps, you can't control the candidates. And when you can't control the candidates, you can't control the future. It's the political equivalent of losing the blueprint mid-construction. But let's zoom out for a second. This isn't just a story about Trump, it's about what happens when national politics stops respecting state power.
For decades, the GOP branded itself as the party of local control, of state rights, small government, homegrown decision-making. That's the message they sold to voters. Now, they're watching their own national leader try to bulldoze that philosophy in the name of personal loyalty. The contradiction is eating them alive. And here's why it matters beyond 2026. Because if the GOP cracks over redistricting, Democrats won't just win a few more seats. They'll inherit a divided opposition. A party that can't agree on maps, can't agree on message. That's political death. So what happens next? 3 possible paths, none of them clean. Scenario 1, the states win. The rebellion holds. State legislatures reject national coordination. Maps get drawn locally, more moderate, more balanced. Trump loses control, but the GOP stabilizes. Leaner, less extreme, more pragmatic. Scenario 2, Trump retaliates. He goes scorched earth. Targets governors, funds challengers, turns every primary into a loyalty test. Short-term chaos, long-term damage. The party fractures into Trump Republicans and everyone else. Scenario 3, the stalemate. Neither side wins. Maps stall. Courts step in. Deadlines pass. Elections happen under old boundaries. Messy, unpredictable, chaotic. And when the dust settles, both sides claim victory while the system burns. Whichever way it goes, one truth stands out. This is no longer Trump's party in absolute terms. It's something else now. Something hybrid. Half Trump, half traditional, all unstable. And you can feel it. The fatigue, the frustration, the quiet realization that the once unbreakable MAGA coalition is starting to splinter from within.
What's left is noise, a movement trying to hold itself together while its creator demands obedience no one's willing to give. Analysts are calling this the Republican reckoning, and it's not hyperbole. Because if Trump can't control the maps, the very foundation of political power, how can he control the narrative in 2026? The image of invincibility has cracked, and in politics, perception is power. Every governor who defies him weakens the myth. Every lawmaker who says no chips away at the empire. Until one day, people stop asking what Trump wants and start asking what the party wants. That's the shift happening right now. Slow, quiet, historic. So here's the question that will decide everything. Is this the moment the GOP finally reclaims itself, or the moment it shatters completely? Because revolutions rarely announce themselves. They start with whispers, not headlines. And in the heart of America's reddest states, the whispers are getting louder. If this rebellion grows, it won't just redraw congressional maps, it'll redraw the political map of the United States. Think about that. So what do you think? Is this just another round of Trump-era drama or the first real crack in his control? Is the Republican Party saving itself or tearing itself apart? Drop your thoughts below, because this isn't the end of the story. It's the first chapter of something much bigger. And trust me, when the next move hits, you'll want to be here. Like, share, subscribe, because this civil war inside the GOP, it's just getting started.